In this episode, we talk to Brian Carter, a retired member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Brian is currently completing a Master's of Education, where his research is on the need for police to practice. And in his spare time, Brian is also a performance-level Alpine Ski Coach. But first, a reminder of our disclaimer, and that the views expressed by the host or the guests are theirs only and not those of any department they may have or currently work for. In this episode, we will talk about practice, pressure, and setting goals. I'm here with Brian. Brian, thank you for doing this. Just for our listeners here, if you could just do a quick introduction on yourself.
Yep, my name is Brian Carter. I'm a retired member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I did 25 years in Nova Scotia. Also did a tour in Haiti during that time. My background is in officer safety, firearms instructor, how to survive armed encounters. That's my expertise in the force. And here to talk to you about anything you need to ask me on that. I'm also doing, by the way, I'm also doing my thesis for my Master's in Education. And my thesis is on the need for police to practice, because currently police do not practice. They go on a course, come home, and don't practice anything they learned on the course. And the thesis compares elite athletes, elite military units to police, and lays out methods of practicing on the job, not taking time off to do it, just like elite athletes.
That's excellent. Actually, that's why I wanted to pick your brain about the thesis, especially the fact that most of the public, they look at a police officer and they think you're an elite officer or on the equivalent of an elite athlete. Whereas if you think about how much training a youth would get if they were playing soccer or football or something like that versus the amount of hours we get in training at both the academy and then once you're out on the street, we're nowhere near that.
No,
No.
not at all.
I'm going to open this up to you. If you just, like I said, the info that we were talking about before, just about practicing and ways to practice and goal setting and stuff, I think it would be beneficial to any member, even from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. So for myself, when I was working in the force, I recognized that there was a lot of issues with police training and with the fact we don't practice. I'm also a performance level Alpine ski race coach and have taken multiple NCCP coaching courses, and I learned quite a bit from that, as well as taking my master's degree courses on educating people on how people learn. And from that, I recognized from the inside in policing, realizing the gaps that were there in both training as well as the lack of practice. So I focused on practice because as a coach, that's what we had our athletes doing, was practice, practice, practice to get better and better and better. And practice is, in policing as well as in alpine ski racing, the idea behind practice in those two groups is because you can get injured or killed in both of those, the sport of ski racing and in policing, the pressure that you're under. So you have to, I distinguish between the difference between pressure and stress. Stress is normally your boss is on your case and it builds up over time and you can get physical ill from it and so on. You can also get the same things from pressure. But the difference with pressure is it's rapid. It's the pressure of someone who pulls a knife on you is very extreme and it comes rapidly. And the outcome of that pressure is instant versus the stress. Stress is built up. Pressure is instant. So if you look at it that way, you're training to deal with pressure the same as an athlete does. And the pressure of any sport, when you have audience there, and if you're a paid athlete, the pressure is even worse because your income depends on how you perform. So how do athletes practice is they set goals that are, you're able to measure them. They set the goals, they meet the goal, and then the next time there's a new goal that's harder. And they improve by changing the goal over and over again. Once they achieve it, then they set a new one and get better and better. It involves things like in hockey, someone like Sidney Crosby if he didn't practice, he'd still be a peewee player. Or today, I guess it would be U10 player. So the U10 player is only going to reach a certain level, but Sidney Crosby did not do that. He did all the practicing, setting goals, building, and spending a lot of time on his own on it. And when now we move to policing, and do police spend time practicing? No, they quite often they say, well, they don't give me the time off for that. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, a lot of the practice you can do while you're working. You can do it in your spare time. Some of it is mental practice too. Actually, quite a bit of it for athletes and for police is mental practice.
I'm a big proponent on mental practice, and just if you watch a video of what some officers did, and regardless of the outcome, if you can just watch it and think of yourself, what would I do if I was in that situation? And think through the situation itself.
Yeah, I've always done I started down this path with officer safety back in the 1980s. Mm-hmm. I would go to the U.S. to get my training because there was none of it in Canada. And a lot of the courses I took there taught you about mental training, and it's very important to do just what you said, is when you see something or whatever, you have to put the proper answer back in your head, because under pressure, the human brain is not capable of creating a new answer. They're going to draw upon one that's there. There's no time for it to create one. So under the pressure, someone coming at you with a knife or shooting at you, or you're losing the fight, someone's trying to take your gun, whatever, the pressure is very, very high, and you better have a plan up there. So the problem is, we watch TV and we watch movies, and if a police officer's killed in the movie or on TV, if you leave that in your mind and you run into the similar scenario on the street yourself, you may be, without practicing, you may be doing the same error that officer did that got them killed in the movie. Mm-hmm. So what you need to do is close your eyes when you watch that movie and come up with the skills and tactics you've been taught and how you have. And you close your eyes and just go, I wouldn't have done that. This is what I would have done. And then you put that answer, the proper one, or one that will save your life, in your mind. Hopefully, under that stress, because that mental practice, you may come out in the good side of that, not the wrong side of it.
You're giving yourself the positive result at the end.
Yeah.
Nice.
You have to have a positive result. And watching movies gives us so many negative. I'll give you a quick example of one. I was at a checkpoint with another member, and the person pulled in slowly and was stopping for us, and the next thing they floored it to take off. You've been there, I've been there. It happens all the time. He dove on the hood of the car, and he falls off. And I'm going, what the heck are you doing? I pick him up off the ground. And I said, no one's taught you that. I've never taught you that. No one has. What were you thinking? I said, you saw it in the movie. He goes, yeah, I guess I did. I said, it doesn't work, does it? So he was lucky. He didn't get hurt, and he learned from that. But, I mean, officers quite often get their mental practice in poor places.
He must have been watching too much T.J. Hooker.
That's it.
That was it.
Diving on the hood of the
that
car.
Was it. Yeah, that was his specialty. There's not always enough time for training. I get that. But like you said, there's some small ways to do that. And if we maybe go over some of that.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to practice while you're working. You and I talked earlier about one of the things that you do, and I did the same thing when I was working. And before you start your shift and you're putting your gun on, loading your gun and so on, whether it's at home or in the office, however you do it, you should be taking the gun and drawing the gun several times out of the holster, empty, because you don't want accidents.
Just disclaimer, please make sure your gun is empty before you do any dry firing.
That's right. So you take an empty gun in your holster, and you're dressed for work, and you draw the gun several times. When you draw, you don't just draw it and point at the floor, but you bring it up, and you get a sight picture and put it back. And then you need to practice changing your mags. Mm-hmm. Change them off and on, in and out. And then once you're done your practice, you just load everything up and holster up and go to work. When you finish work, you should do the same thing. And what that'll do for you for the start of your work is, if you do get into a situation with high pressure, you need to draw your gun, you've done it several times that day already, so it's going to be rapid for you. It's going to be instant. And if you have to reload in that period too, you've reloaded that day already. So you know where the bottom of the gun is. You know how to reload. You've done it several times that day. And your performance is going to increase from that alone. You don't have to go to the range and shoot bullets. Simple things like that. Another one would be if you want to practice high-speed driving, on-off ramps on the highway have a yellow sign on them. It's a suggested speed sign. It's not a speed limit. So if you come off a 110 zone and it says 60 on the ramp, 110 is still okay because you're doing the speed limit. And you practice apexing turns. And that's free of charge to the taxpayer. And it's going to improve your driving skills, shooting skills. You can do it with verbal skills. You can do it with all the skills. Just take verbal skills. It just takes your time, get out of the car and just go wander up and talk to people.
Yep. So we were talking, the big thing is driving. Like other than the academy where you get the bulk of your driving, once you get on onto the road, very rarely does an agency or yourself get extra training for driving, unless you go to like a specialty squad or surveillance or something along those lines. But really patrols out there driving all the time, and that's where most of the accidents and a lot of fatalities end up as a result.
Yeah, for sure. And police agencies like the RCMP have a lot of rural areas, and the speed limits are higher, roads are narrower, you get worse conditions on the road by rain or snow or whatever. So a lot of fatalities in rural communities in Canada with police officers driving.
Where are you at in your thesis right now?
My thesis proposal's been submitted, so now it's working on the thesis to finish it. So I'll be graduating in the spring.
Excellent. Is there any way, if somebody were interested to talk to you or dig a little bit further into this, is there a way to contact you? Or is that something you'd be comfortable with? Or
yeah, no, absolutely.
Do you have a contact info you'd want to put out there?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty easy to reach me. It's just a pretty simple email is probably the easiest way. And you just have to, it's the BC, that's Bravo Charlie 56 at eastlink.ca.
There it is. Anything you think that we missed today or that you wanted to throw out there?
Of course there is. We always miss things. But, for the sake of time,
sure.
What we have. But it's just the final comment, I guess, would be that practice is critical. If you're going to perform under pressure, and the pressure that police are under in those circumstances we discussed, you really need to practice a lot more, and it's on you. It's not on the agency. If you want to survive, it's about you practicing. And it's simple. It's not that hard.
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, that was great. Thank you very much. For more information on the podcast or our guests, check out our Facebook page at Force Options Training. And remember, let's be careful out there.